So in this video, we'll be talking about different kind of levels of organization in organisms. So basically how something is going from something really small to something more complex. So by the end of this video, you should be able to name all these levels in organization and classify them into the correct organ system, and of course give some examples. Now let's start. What will be the name of the basic building block of all living thing? 5 seconds. So the name is cell. So basically the basic building block of every living creature is a cell. Before we mentioned that we have unicellular and multicellular cells. So unicellular are made of only one cell, while multicellular are made of more than one cell. What will be the name of structures inside of the cell? I will give you 6 seconds. So the name is cell organelles. So the cell organelles are, their function inside of the cell is we have, of course, different cell organelles, and each of them have specific function to help to maintain the cell. Okay, so let's start. What is this? ETSONLY. I can name even a few more, but basically one word for these, how you call this, each of these is basically a letter, right? When you combine these letters, what you can get? The name of this is word. So words basically are made of different letters. Okay, what will happen if, for example, you combine these words into the sentence like this one? This is a huge sentence. When more sentences are combined, you can get, let's say, chapter. So basically, this is the simplest one. Then from simplest one, you get something a little bit more complex. Then from something a little bit more complex, even more complex. Then in the end, when you combine different chapters, you can get, let's say, a book. This sentence is basically from the book called The Little Prince. So, but why here I'm talking about the book and how this book essentially is connected with all this organization in human body? So actually it is, but how it is and what's the connection? So every book must be made of sentences, chapters, words. Most of the books, of course, there's books that exist without words, but let's focus now on this one, which actually has words. So these books, like Little Prince, they must contain sentences, they must contain words, and they must contain letters, which is meaning that there will be no chapters, there will be no sentences, there will be no words that you don't have the simple basic part, which is called a letter. So everything starts with a letter, and in this case, for this book, the letter is like a basic building block for the whole book. That you don't have letters, The Little Prince will not exist in this form. So why I'm talking about this basic block? Because we mentioned in the living organism, the basic block of every living organism is a cell. So what do we have here? We have four diagrams. Each diagram has something else. So the question is that you need to observe these diagrams and answer the question. So the question is, which of these diagrams below actually showing the basic building unit of life? So what do you think? We mentioned that the basic building unit of life must be the simplest form, which everything else is then made of it. So which of these will be the simplest form? 6 seconds. So definitely it will be this one, because this one is representing a cell. This is like a nucleus inside. So the basic building unit unit of life is cell. Then, will you be able to organize these images from the simple one to the complex one? I will give you 10 seconds for this. Okay, so it says from simple one to complex one. So the simple one we already mentioned, that's the cell, the basic building block of every living being. Then when more cells combine, like here, you get something that we call the tissue. So tissues are made of when many cells combine together. Then when many other tissues combine together, you get something more complex, which is called an organ, like this heart or cardiac muscle here, or basically heart is an organ. Then when a lot of organs combine together, you get something even more complex. In this case, this is the circulatory system. You can see veins, arteries, heart is here, etc. So basically, how you should organize. So first goes the cell, then goes the tissue, then the organ, and in the end, more complex, the organ system. How everything actually started regarding these cells and these basic building blocks of life. So someone actually needs to discover them. How they discover them? They must use the microscope because they're too small to visible with human eye without a microscope. So it was one scientist called Robert Hooke who basically gave the name to these cells, and he was actually observing cells, and how actually they get the name cell, because from Latin word cellula, that's meaning small room. But why small room? Because basically he was observing these small rooms where monks lived in, and so he associated the cells that he observed under the microscope that they look like these small rooms, and this is the reason why actually the cells get the name cells. Okay, now we mentioned that when a lot of cells combine together, you get something more complex, which we call the tissues. So one more time, when group of cells with similar structures working together to perform a shared function. So regarding humans and animals, we have 4 different tissues. So there is one that we call connective, then it's one that we call epithelial, and muscle and nervous tissue. If you notice, okay, nervous is connected with the nervous system, muscle with muscles, then connective something needs to connect, and epithelial one basically is on the surface of something. We'll just shortly describe each of these. So connective tissue, like the name say connective, needs to connect something. Basically, where you can find it? You can find it between other tissues, basically everywhere in the body. Function that this tissue will actually do, like connect, right, or support, protects, and gives structure to other tissues and organs in the body. Then, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue you can find on the surfaces of organs and, of course, skin. The function is also protection, secretion, and absorption. Absorption is meaning like absorb something, like take in something. Secretion is basically meaning release something out. Then we have a muscle tissue. Muscle tissue, of course, like the name say muscle, you will find it in muscles which are basically attached to the bones. Also, you can find it in the heart muscle or in different internal structures or smooth muscles. What will be the function? The function, of course, will be, like we mentioned for the muscle cell, ability to short or contract. Then nervous tissue. Nervous tissue, like the name say nervous, you can find it in the brain, spinal cord, and nerves, basically everything regarding the nervous system. Now, the function of nervous tissue, like we mentioned with the nervous cell or nerve cell, is the nerve cell, the function of the nerve cell was basically to receive and send electrical impulses. So the nervous tissue basically will be the one who will coordinate and control many body activities. How? Regarding these nervous impulses that basically are also part of this nerve cell. Okay, now plant tissues. Plant tissues basically, they are a little bit, they are different than human and animal tissues, but some of the roles are similar like in humans and animals. So they have something that is called the permanent tissue. Permanent tissue is like basically specialized in performing different kind of functions. We will mention that a little bit later. And you have something that is called growing tissue. Like the name say, growing, it's meaning that it will allow plant to grow. So this is like main classification of plant tissues, and then inside of each of these you can go in more details. Regarding plants and their tissues, like I mentioned, more details will be regarding how they are transporting different nutrients, what is on the surface of the plant, and etc. Some tissues regarding plants, they can be all over the plant. When they are all over the plant, basically the name of this tissue is parenchyma tissue. So what will be the function? If something is all over the plant, so either some of the functions can be to store the different nutrients, it can contain the cells with a large number of chloroplasts for photosynthesis, etc. So basically that's parenchyma all over the plant. The next one is a dermal tissue. Dermal tissue will basically cover the surface of all plant organs. So like you have skin, in plants you don't have skin, but of course you have dermal tissue, which is also on the surface of all plants. This is like in humans is skin for protection. This is like layer for protection in plants. So it will protect plant from, for example, water loss, mechanical damage, external temperatures, etc. Then, like in humans, you have skeleton, muscles, so something that give us support. Plants do not have skeleton and they do not have muscles, but they need to have some kind of different kind of support. In this support, they have supporting tissue. Basically, you can find it in parts of the plant which are growing, like root, stem, and leaf, and also they can be part of fruits and plant veins. Why they're important? Like I mentioned, they need to provide plant strength or supports for different plant organs. Then, glandular tissue, you can find also all over the plant. Like in humans, we also have glands, but in humans, glands is meaning this is the specific organ which will produce some kind of chemicals in the human body, and these chemicals will they will control different kind of functions in human body. So for example, some of them can control when you're really excited. So one organ will produce some chemicals which will increase how fast your heart will start beating, etc. So like this you have in humans something, let's say, similar you have in plants. So in plants, basically, because they don't have heart, so they will not release the chemical which will, of course, cause something biting faster, but that they actually do not have. So basically, in their case, they will produce some other stuff like essential oils, like nectar, but also you have some plants that are carnivores, which is meaning that they can eat some insects so that they can actually digest or use these insects as a food. They need to have these specific glandular tissues which will produce some kind of enzymes, or we call them digestive juices, which will help to break down these insects, and that actually plant can use them. And then in plants you can also find the vascular tissue. Vascular tissue you can find in veins, in roots, stem, and leaf. Basically, how you have, let's say, in human body, veins and arteries, which are like roads in the human body for transportation, different stuff. So plants, they don't have arteries and veins, but they also have this kind of, let's say, roads inside of the plant, which will help them to transport different things. So for transportation of water and mineral, they're using xylem, and for transportation of nutrients and oxygen, basically they're using phloem. So we mentioned that cells are basic building blocks of everything. We mentioned that when a lot of cells combine together, you get a tissue. And now we will mention when a lot of tissues combine together, basically you get something that we call an organ. So one more time, organ is basically when a lot of tissues combine together with, of course, and perform specific functions. So here you can see different organs. Of course, these two are part of human body, and these two are plants, from plant. So this one is called lungs. So lungs definitely are part of the something that we call the respiratory system, but they are actually organ. So lungs are organ. Then this one is liver. So liver is also organ. This one is flower. So this is part of the plant. Flower is organ. And this one is leaf, which is also part of the plant, and this is also organ. So all these here are organs made of different tissues combined together. Organ system. So basically, organ system is when many similar organs combine together with some related functions and they work together. In the end, you get something that we call organ system. So for example, here you can see one organ system which we call digestive system. This digestive system is made of different organs. For example, this is stomach and these are intestines. So when these different organs combine together with similar function, in this case the function is digestion of food, so they will make an organ system. In this case, this one is called the digestive system. Then here, these are, for example, two kidneys. This is the ureter. So basically, again, we have a lot of different organs with similar functions, which in the end gives you organ system. And this one is called the urinary system, where the urine is produced, or basically the blood will be filtered here, the bad stuff will be taken away, and some water can be returned back to the body if needed. So this is fine in humans. Then regarding plants, you have something that is called the shoot system, which is above the soil, and the root system, which is below the soil. So basically what you have in soil is roots, and this is called the root system, and what you have above the soil, it's shoot system. Basically that's the stem and leaf.